Welcome to Honeybee, real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. My name is Nathaniel. When my divorce became official, I thought I'd be ready for it after watching it slowly unravel over the past year. But nothing could prepare me for the crushing silence that followed. The night it was finalized, I checked into a cheap motel. As I waited at the front desk for my room key, the receptionist glanced at me, and what she said in that moment completely changed the way I looked at the last few years of my life. I can still remember the exact day my wife told me she was done. It was a quiet Wednesday. I'd just come home from work, exhausted, expecting the usual cold silence that had settled in our home for months. But the second I stepped through the door, I saw Erica sitting on the couch, hands clasped in her lap, waiting. Her stillness, her posture, the way her eyes locked onto mine. I knew something big was about to happen. I just didn't know what. She didn't ask about my day. She didn't smile. She simply said, like she had practiced it over and over, "This marriage isn't working. You know it." I froze, standing in the doorway, my brain refusing to process what she meant. I just stared at her, tried to read her face. Was she angry? Was she hurting? Was this some kind of twisted joke? But she was calm. Too calm. Before I could even respond, she reached for a folder beside her, divorce papers, already filled out and neatly stacked. She told me she had spoken to a lawyer, and that there was no need to drag things through court. "We don't have kids or much shared property," she said. "My lawyer can talk to yours. We'll keep it clean." I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but nothing came out, because in that moment, I saw in her eyes, she was already gone. She had left me long before I even realized it. So I nodded. What else could I do? I told her I'd get in touch with a lawyer, and that was the end of it. Inside, I kept asking myself, how did we get here? Yes, we've been struggling, but I believe we could fix it if we just held on a little longer. I thought love meant staying, fighting through the hard parts. But for her, love meant leaving the moment it got too heavy. That night, I stayed up for hours, thinking about every moment that had led to this point. Looking back now, I can see it clearly. Our marriage didn't break all at once. It frayed slowly, thread by thread, until one day there was nothing left to hold. At first, I convinced myself it was just a rough patch. Every couple has them, right? But the distance between us kept growing, even though we shared the same bed. Our first real fight happened on a Friday night. Erica had started going out with her friends, girls' nights, she called them. At first, I didn't mind. I thought she deserved some fun. But soon it became every Friday. What unsettled me wasn't just that she went out. It was how she did it. Her clothes got tighter. Her heels got higher. Her perfume stronger. She'd stumble home drunk. And when I tried to talk to her, she brushed me off like I was overreacting. The third Friday, I'd had enough. I told her, "If you walk out that door like this again, don't bother call yourself my wife." I wasn't trying to control her. I was trying to save what was left of us. But she didn't see it that way. She lashed out, called me a loser, said if I spent half as much effort making more money as I did worrying about her nights out, maybe we wouldn't be living such an average life. That was the first time she had ever spoken to me like that. And it broke me. After that fight, she stopped going out. But things didn't get better. If anything, they got worse. She nitpicked everything I did. She barely looked at me. And when she did, her eyes carried this quiet resentment, like I was the reason her life wasn't what she imagined. She made sure I knew, over and over, that she hadn't signed up for average. That word started haunting me. She acted like my stability, my loyalty, my consistency were proof I had failed her. It hurt, because she used to be okay with our life. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Nothing had changed, except her. By the time she gave me those papers, we were strangers sharing a bed. Our conversations were reduced to past assault or, "What time's your appointment?" And intimacy? It was gone. I still tried. I still reached for her. But every time, she pulled away like my touch was something she could no longer stand. No, it wasn't one big moment that ended us. It was a slow unraveling. And by the end, The only thing we shared anymore was silence. After she asked for a divorce, things moved quickly, yet somehow felt painfully slow. I contacted a lawyer, though part of me still hoped she'd change her mind. She never did. Each time we spoke, she was calm, collected, like she had been living in the aftermath long before I got there. When it came time to divide things, she said she didn't want my assets, didn't want to make it messy. But then she asked for the house, said she loved it, said it felt like home. I don't know what hurt more, her asking me to leave the home we built together, or realizing she was more attached to the house than to me. My lawyer was ready to fight. "You have a right to stay," he said. "We can split it or force a sale." But I just sat there staring at the floor, thinking, what's the point? That house no longer felt like mine. Every room felt hollow, even while we still lived there. So I told my lawyer to let her have it. I just wanted peace. In the end, she kept the apartment. I kept the car and my investments. That was enough. Packing was brutal. Every drawer, every closet felt heavier than it should have. I boxed what I needed, donated some things, and locked the rest in storage. I didn't call my friends for help. I didn't want to explain or hear pity in their voices. I was already exhausted. I decided to stay at a cheap motel for a while, just until I found my own place. I told myself it was temporary, but deep down, I knew I needed that quiet. I needed to sit with myself. The night I pulled into the motel parking lot, my car was full of boxes, and my chest felt heavier than ever. Inside, the lobby was dim, faintly smelling of old pine cleaner and coffee. The receptionist, calm, soft-spoken, probably in her 30s, looked at me, saw the wreckage on my face, and didn't push. While searching for a key, she asked, "Rough day?" I nodded weakly. "Finalized my divorce today." She didn't flinch. She just slid me the key and said something that hit me harder than anything Erica had said in months. Some endings aren't failures. Sometimes they just mean you stop lying to yourself. I froze, because deep down I knew she was right. I didn't say anything else, just nodded, took the key, and went to my room. Those words echoed in my head as I dropped my bags, sat on the edge of that stiff bed, and stared at the ceiling. Was I lying to myself this whole time? Pretending things weren't as broken as they were? Hoping she'd turn back into the woman I first fell in love with, when maybe she didn't even know who that was anymore. I stayed there for 2 weeks. The receptionist never asked for details, never pried. She just gave me a nod in the mornings, sometimes an extra cup of coffee. One evening, she sat with me outside on one of those cheap motel benches. We didn't talk much, but somehow I felt understood. By the time I found an apartment, we'd built something steady. Not love, not yet, just understanding. She'd sometimes stop by on Sundays and sit with me on the porch. And after all the noise of my marriage, that silence felt like the start of healing. It's easy to fall for someone new after a long, cold relationship. Their warmth feels like sunlight after a brutal winter. But I remind myself to take it slow, to breathe, to appreciate her without rushing to label what we are. She showed me kindness without knowing a single thing about me. And that's why I don't force it. Not with her, not with myself. Some endings really aren't failures. Sometimes they're the star of honesty. Almost a year later, I learned the truth. And nothing hits harder than realizing the person you built your life around had already left the marriage. Their heart was gone long before they said the words. A mutual friend told me over lunch that Erica had been seeing someone else before she served me those papers. All those girls' nights. They weren't just drinks and gossip. She was with him. She had already lined up her next chapter, like I was just some draft she could delete when she got bored. But the fantasy didn't play out like she'd hoped. From what I heard, he never took her seriously. He strung her along, made promises, and when she started pushing for marriage, he backed away. They fought. They broke up. No fairy tale ending. Just two people trying to build something on lies, and watching it collapse. She never reached out to apologize. And even if she had, it wouldn't have mattered. By then, I had gone to therapy. I had faced everything. My pain, my silence, my guilt, even the ways I let things slide, hoping love would fix them. I had to sit with all of it until I could finally see who I was without her voice in my ear. At first, life after divorce felt like walking around with a hole in my chest. Everything hurt. The silence was deafening. But I've come a long way since that man who checked into a motel carrying a suitcase and a shattered heart. I'm not the same man who sat on that bed wondering if any of it had been real. Therapy changed me. At first, I couldn't even talk. I kept saying, I'm fine, when I wasn't. But slowly, I unpacked years of weight I didn't know I was carrying. My therapist helped me see that just because someone didn't value me didn't mean I wasn't valuable. That was a turning point. I stopped asking why Erica left and started asking what I actually deserve. I'm not sure I'll marry again, not because I'm scared, but because I've made peace with being on my own. But if the right woman comes along, someone who sees me clearly and values me for who I am, not just what I can provide, then I'm open. I won't settle for just being tolerated. I want to be respected, appreciated, loved. So yes, I've moved past the pain, not because I forgot, but because I faced it. I'm not angry at Erica anymore. I understand now. Sometimes people leave because they don't recognize who they are next to you. And that's okay, because what matters is this. I finally recognize myself again. Thank you for listening. Tell me what you think.